This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, founder of Mosley Wealth Management.
Our mission at Mosley Wealth Management is to help people make sure they never run out of income the rest of their life and they pay as little as they're legally required to pay in taxes.
Since 1995, Tom Mosley and his team have been creating comprehensive, custom financial plans to help you preserve what you've earned and pursue what you've envisioned.
In retirement, a lot of people have built a great lump sum. We call that your lumber yard. But you need a blueprint to put that lumber yard into a plan that you can build a retirement house to live in.
What's on your mind this week, Southern California? The stock market, taxes, inflation, income, Social Security, how to ease into the life of your dreams? Let's discover conservative financial strategies starting right now. This is your Right on the Money Radio Hour with Tom Mosley.
And a very happy weekend to you. You are listening to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the CEO and president of Mosley Wealth Management, based right here in Southern California. And I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. We have put together another great show for all of you listening this weekend. Some of the topics we're going to be covering today: 5 questions that you want to ask when taking a hands-on approach to your 401k or whatever workplace retirement plan you may have. We're also going to be covering some long-term care stats and how you can be prepared for the exorbitant costs that can come with long-term care. And then we're also going to be talking about Social Security, specifically inflation as it relates to Social Security. So my goodness, Tom, so much to dive into today.
Let's go head first.
All right. So we're starting off with 5 questions to ask when taking a hands-on approach to your 401k. And the bulk of the inspiration for these 5 questions came from a recent article that Morningstar put out. But I know that this is something that you are really passionate about doing. A lot of what you offer to folks, and you don't make any money off of this, but you offer 401k coaching for folks who need help figuring out how to navigate their workplace retirement plan. So why don't you kick us off on this important conversation today?
You know, our clients basically are like in their 40s, their 50s, and their 60s. They're already retired, they're close to retirement, or they're to the point where they're saying, hey, I need some help with putting together a retirement plan so I can get there. It's a long journey, and from 40 or 42 or 45 to get to retirement. So that's who we work with. Well, those people have 4 plans. It might be a 401k, a 403b, a 457, a 401a, or, all kind of 4 plans. It was the 4th article in the bill that was passed in Congress back in the late 70s. That's what formed them all. So that's where they got their numbers. So what we have formed, Kristen, over the years is we realize most people are willing to raise the flag and say, hey, I don't know what I'm doing with a 401k. I just need some help. So what we do for our clients is we do a 401k coaching program where they bring us all of their options, and we're able to make recommendations, tell them questions they need to ask. A lot of things we're going to go through today, but basically what we're going to do today is go through 2 things. I'm going to look at 5 major questions that you need to find out if you're winging it on your own, and then 5 major things that we try to look at if we're coaching and what we do when we take over and we do the hands-on for your portfolio for your 401k. But listen, if you're doing your own 401k and you'll listen to these first 2 segments, you're going to learn something that might help you.
Absolutely. Well, there's so much to know. And I think it's always important to point out that when these plans were developed, basically, the burden of saving for retirement was placed on our shoulders, but we weren't given an instruction manual on how to do it. And so a lot of people are in their working careers, or, when they first start out, they're given the option of having a plan. They're enrolling, but they're not sure what to enroll in, how to invest the money. And I've heard some stories recently, Tom, of folks who were investing in a plan for over 20 years before they realized that what they had selected was not providing them very much growth at all, which is just devastating because time is the biggest asset you have on your side. And so it's so important to make sure you know how you're invested in your workplace retirement plan so that you can really make the most of it.
3 years ago, Kristen, I had a guy came in and I asked him about everything. This guy was 47 years old because he just turned 50. He's a client now. During the downturn of 2008 and 2009, when he was a very young man, early 30s or so, right around 30, he started his 401k. He was afraid of the market. He put his money into a very, very conservative, almost a money market.
Mm.
And he was, now listen to this. I asked him how his 401k was doing, and he says, well, every year it grows.
Mm-hmm.
And as I began to look at it, and this is something people, they overlook sometimes, the 401k grows because they're adding money to it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And this guy had gotten some growth because he'd added money to it.
Mm-hmm.
But at that time, it was right before COVID. So maybe it was 4 years ago now, but it was right before COVID. But he had 12 years of dramatic run up in the market. He'd been in almost a money market plan. He had been thinking he had growth, but really the growth was coming from just his adding contributions to it on a monthly basis.
Mm.
So he had almost no growth of all of the remarkable stock market growth for 12 years that we had during that period.
Wow.
That's just one point of people looking at something and not understanding it and not being a professional financial advisor.
Right.
This guy's an engineer. Okay.
Yeah.
And he just never looked at it. So you're right. People don't know what they have and they don't know what they're doing sometimes.
So if you are considering of taking a hands-on approach yourself to managing your 401k or whatever workplace retirement plan you have, or if you're already doing so, here are 5 of the key questions that we want to make sure that you are aware of. So that brings us to the first question, which is what came out of this Morningstar article. Do you have the right qualifications? Talk about that, Tom. You kind of touched on that with that story.
Well, let me make it clear. You don't have to be a financial advisor to take care of your own 401k, but you do have to have some basic knowledge. Okay. I can change a light socket switch in my house, but I'm not an electrician. And I'm one of those anal people that turn the power off in the whole house. I'm so afraid of
I would
getting
do the same.
shot. Right. Yeah, because I don't really know what I'm doing. You know what I'm saying? But I do know enough to take the old one out, reconnect the wires. What really throws me is if there are different wires coming out of the new box than the wiring. But, let me give you some things to look for and having the right qualifications. Do you understand diversification? That means you don't put all your eggs in one basket. You understand diversification. You know what your fees are because each one of those investment accounts has fees coming out of it. And sadly, the 401k, so many people come and they say, well, I don't pay any fees in my 401k.
Such a misconception. Yeah.
What a shock, because the 401k as a box costs you, and the product you put in there, the investments you put in there, everybody has fees. My issue with fees is not very many people tell you what those fees are.
Right.
The other thing is, if you're not very knowledgeable about investments and you see the market going down, 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 and you consider hands-on being like a steering wheel, okay?
Yeah.
And the market goes down and you want to turn the corner. You don't want to just adjust a little bit. You turn the corner. And just when you turn the corner, so many times, then the market takes back off. Patience. Do you have the patience to just put something at your risk level and ride it? And risk level, well, each product, each investment has a risk level. You're always looking at performance. That's always looking from here backwards. And that has somewhat to do with risk level. But one of the key things you need to know is, do I have the expertise to know that how I can stay diversified, keep my fees low, I know my risk level, and I've got the patience to just ride out a downturn and not just react and react and react. Because when you react, you got to know 2 things, and you got to do them both right. You got to know exactly when to get out and exactly when to get back in.
And often by the time you get information, it's end of the day, it's too late, right?
Right.
The markets.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
All right. So that's the first question. This next one is really interesting, and I'm going to need your help understanding it. How good are your raw materials? What are they talking about with that?
They're talking about what's in the 401k. Normally, Kristen, unfortunately, it's garbage. Okay. I remember when I first started, they put me in charge with another couple of guys. When I first started, they said, why don't you go help them build 401ks? And I built one, and I put the best products, 20 of the best products. I was working with MetLife, a group out of MetLife, the best products I could find. And I brought that in. I was so proud of it. I had done research, and they looked at it and they started laughing. They said, you don't understand about 401ks. You got to put 5 products in there that are really good, and you got to put 15 products in there that we can't really sell on the market, because if people inspect them, they wouldn't put their money into it.
Oh my goodness.
I'm going to finish this topic in the second segment, okay?
Okay, yeah.
But the topic is, how good are the raw materials? We'll go over this, and then I'll give you the other 3 as well. But if you're doing your own 401k, please, let us help you. Let us give you some coaching. It's 401 coaching. Like you said at the very beginning of the broadcast, we don't charge for that. Our visits, we don't emphasize this enough, it's my fault, are complimentary. They're free. They don't cost you anything. We work with you, a couple of meetings. We see where you are. We see if we can help you or not. And then we give you the advice. And then you can take it and do it on your own, or you can take it and work with us. And if you do, we tell you what the fees are. But we invite you to come in and get a complete retirement blueprint. We'll tell you more about that later in the show. But call during this segment and get on our calendars. We'll be glad to see you and help you.
That's right, Tom. For no cost, no charge, no obligation, all of you listening today, we invite you to call to get your very own complimentary retirement blueprint from Tom and the team of Mosley Wealth Management. All you need to do is call 888-930-5609. We're going to continue tackling these important questions right after this.
At Mosley Wealth Management, we believe that financial planning should be different by design. That's why we don't use a one-size-fits-all approach to retirement planning. Your life and your career has been completely different from that of your neighbors, family, or friends, because there is only one you. That's why we believe in taking the time to get to know you, your goals, and your unique financial situation. With Mosley Wealth Management, our team will work with you to develop a comprehensive retirement plan that is tailored to your specific needs. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management today for your complimentary retirement blueprint. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Do you know how you'll generate income from your investments along with your Social Security in retirement? In our opinion, it's never too early to start the income planning process for your future. An income plan can help you work towards creating a steady stream of income to support you throughout your retirement years. Don't leave your financial future to chance. Take control today and start income planning for your retirement. Call the team at Mosley Wealth Management so we can help you design a complimentary written income plan to help you live the retirement you've always wanted. Call 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and we are starting off today's episode. In the first segment, we unpacked 5 questions to ask when taking a hands-on approach to your 401k. And Tom, we're on question number 2, and I think this is such a fascinating title, and you started to go down this road. I'm excited to hear your response to it. But the second question is, how good are your raw materials? And I'm still reeling from that story you shared about when you were helping to put together a retirement plan through MetLife. That's just wild to me that that's what their response was to you.
Well, if you'll look at it, you'll see we look at the 401ks all the time through the 401 coaching program that we do for free for people. But yeah, if you look at it, it's so blatant that some of them perform well and some of them don't. But when we talk about raw materials, we're talking about what's in your 401k. Is there just one large cap option? Is there just one mid cap, middle-sized company option? Is there just one, or do you have multiple options? Usually they shoot for around 20 to 25 or so, but you got to understand, sometimes there's no safety in there except just a straight money market. There's a large company in Chino that I was real adamant about, or real striking at the end of last year after the market was down 22% last year. and they had 24 options in that 401k of a large company there in Chino. And 22 of the 24 options were down 22% or more. Some of them down as much as 35% because we had a down year in 2022. It's more than a year now. I forgot that we've already spent
hard to believe
2023.
We're in
That's
24
right.
now.
Oh
Funny how
yeah,
that
it's
works.
like on the checkbook, you forget. But you got to see what kind of raw material, what kind of options are in there, and know the diversification and pick the right one and pick the right allocation. In the first segment, we talked about diversification. You don't want to just be in large cap or just international. You want to spread that out, and which one are the best ones to pick.
Well, that leads right into the third question that needs to be asked, which is what's your asset allocation plan? And, you and I have talked about this before, that being truly diversified, it's making sure you're diversified across assets. That's the key, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And that means, are you all in stock? Well, if you're 20 or 30 or even in your 40s, that might be okay because stock goes up, stock goes down, but overall stock has increased and increased in value given a long period of time. But as you draw closer to retirement, it probably makes sense to maybe back off a little bit on stock. And the question is, do you put it in bonds? Well, bonds were down over 20% in 2022 as well, the last downturn we had. So they're not really a safety. Do you put it in the money market? That's the problem with the 401ks. That's why if you're 59 and a half, you may not have the right asset allocation within your 401k, but your company might allow you to do what's called an in-service distribution. You can actually early, before you retire, take money out of a 401k. Last week, we had a person in the office and they had over $800,000 in a 401k. They were 63 years old. They were 2 years away from retirement, and there was really no place for safety. This is what we're talking about, asset allocation within their 401k. So we were able to pull $750,000 out of that 401k in an in-service distribution. They're still working. The 401k is still there, but we started already building their retirement blueprint and their retirement plan. You may need to do that. That may be something that you need to look at. There's no allocation within a 401k that will give you guaranteed income. You might need to look for that. Okay. Right. There's nothing that will give, and be careful of the target funds.
Yes, I was going to ask you about the target date funds, because I think that's where a lot of people think that it's being handled if they've enrolled in that option. But you and I both know there's a lot of issues with those. So talk about that.
Well, most 70-30 target date funds are 70 stock, 30 bonds. At most, 50-50 is 50% stock, 50% bonds. The problem is bonds and stocks don't always run counter to each other now.
Right.
In 2022, both bonds and stocks overall were down over 20% each. So that's what I mean when I say there's no safety. So you got to watch your asset allocation.
Yep. And again, it's making sure you're properly diversified across asset classes. Right. Well, that brings us to question number 4. So again, if you are taking a hands-on approach to your workplace retirement plan, this is the 4th question you want to ask yourself: is fine-tuning in order?
Well, by that, it means, put it all in the 401k? Or do you need to, maybe if it doesn't offer a Roth option, do you need in these last years before you get to retirement, maybe back off what you're putting in the 401k, go ahead and pay tax on what you're investing for retirement and put it into a Roth option, a Roth IRA. That may be something that you need. You need to start looking at the whole portfolio. And here's what I would hasten to say: if you're married, if you're married and you've been married a long time, a lot of people still look at their portfolios and that 401k or the other 401k or the other spouse has a 403b. You need to start looking at the whole. and fine tuning the entire thing. It may be, now listen to this real closely. It may be that if you're a married couple and you both have a 401k, one of your 401ks has a lot of good options and all the things we've talked about in the first 3 segments. Wow, spot on, spot on, spot on. You're able to well diversify. You know what your fees are. You're able to, you got a lot of choices and a lot of options, and they're not just target funds, target date funds. So you may want to use the 401k completely that's got the better option. And then for the other partner, you may want to put money into the Roth or the IRA. That's what we mean by looking at the thing as a whole, or fine tuning in order your entire portfolio. You may want to look at other things. And if you're planning on putting away and you're 5 years away from retirement, and the first thing you want to do in retirement is to buy a retirement home in Lake Havasu or buy a motor home, and you're going to have to spend $140,000 to $160,000 even to get an average one right now after retirement, you might want to start going ahead and putting money away into an after-tax account. So that's what we mean. As you get close and you get close to retirement, you may want to start using a bigger, broader look at all of the options that are available and start fine-tuning that.
You know, I'm loving that you're talking about this, Tom, because about 10 years ago, that was the decision my husband and I had to make. So he's a public school teacher and he will receive a pension, but the retirement plan that they offered was horrible. There were no options within that 403B. There was no match. So we made the decision to just fully fund my workplace retirement plan and get as much as we could in there because it was a better option.
Absolutely. And, you know, something I ran into recently with a teacher who'd been teaching for 26 years. I believe it was 26 years. I know it was in the upper 20s. And he was a teacher out in the Inland Empire. And like almost everything we see, I can get on and I can look at the 403B options. And I got on and there were like 40 options in those 403Bs. And then I can go a little deeper and see what kind of percentage of money goes into the options. And the first 3 options controlled over 70% of the money.
Wow.
Because people don't know what to pick. One guy one time told me, I said, why are you, and I'm going to name it. I said, why are you in this BlackRock fund? And he got all excited. He said, this was in a really good market year, at the end of a really good market year. He said, well, I like BlackRock. He said, I didn't know what to pick, but there's this little spot north of Lahaina on Maui. It's called BlackRock, and I always go snorkeling there. It's my favorite spot to snorkel. And so I put all my money in BlackRock. I thought there was some kind of omen. Well, that omen in an up year in the market had him down about 22% in that fund that he had picked. Okay?
Oh, man. Yeah.
So don't pick BlackRock because you like to go snorkeling there. BlackRock's got some stuff that might be attractive to you, but pick it for the right reasons.
Well, and so many people, this is my husband too. I said, why did you pick what you were in? He said, I don't know. I just looked at the guy next to me and put down what he put on his paper.
Exactly.
He didn't have an education on it. Yep.
Right. I got a great story on that. But if you're sitting next to the real smart person and you're taking a test, maybe that works.
Right.
But not in picking your strategy for your 401k.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I know we need to get to the 5th question here, which is, what's your oversight strategy? What does that question even mean?
Well, you got to keep working your plan. It's an active plan. Sometimes these 401ks will just drop a strategy that you're in, put you in another one without you even knowing about it, or maybe they'll send you an email and you don't even read the email. Number 2, how are they performing? You got into something. It might not be doing well. How are the other things performing? These are all things we do in the 401k coaching program if we're helping you with your 401k after you become our client. Rebalancing. Do you rebalance those things every now and then? Because what was up last year might not be up in 2024. So you might need to shift those things gradually. See, here are the things that we've given you great information in these first 2 segments that if you want to do all of these things, go do them yourself. But if you're looking for help, if you're looking for somebody who can come in and help coach you on your 401k, when you become our client free of charge, we will help you coach the 401k and go through all of these things as the professionals that we are and help you pick the right choices in your 401k. Just part of what we're doing, if we're working with you on a retirement blueprint that encompasses income, inflation, investments, taxes, healthcare, and legacy to make sure you're on the right track for retirement.
Tom, I can't think of a better way for someone to kick off this new year, this first weekend of 2024, than to give themselves the gift that comes with having a solid plan in place. And again, as Tom shared, that is completely free of charge. All you need to do is call this number, 888-930-5609, and schedule time to come in and meet with one of Tom's all-star advisors based right here in Southern California. They would love to help you and love to serve you by providing you with your very own personalized retirement blueprint. Stay with us. When we come back, we're going to be talking about preparing for long-term care and how to navigate Social Security given today's inflationary environment. Stay with us. More on Right on the Money with Tom Mosley right after this. With volatile economic conditions, rising taxes, inflation, and interest rates, retirement has become a complex landscape. We think that today's modern retiree faces more challenges than previous generations did, such as longevity and legislation risks. That's why we believe it's important to stay informed and be prepared. At Mosley Wealth Management, we pay attention to the financial currents and develop a retirement plan that is designed to help meet your unique needs and goals. From investment strategies to tax-efficient planning, Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management are here to guide you along the way. Don't let today's economic winds potentially blow your retirement off course. Call Mosley Wealth Management for your own complimentary retirement blueprint and written financial plan. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
When making important decisions in your life, how many opinions do you seek out? You might ask your spouse, perhaps family and friends, or an expert or professional in that field. Most importantly, you may seek someone who has experience with the decision you're making. A friend of mine once said, "You can't get a second opinion from the person who gave you the first one." Call Right on the Money and the team here at Mosley Wealth Management, 930-5609. That's 888-930-5609.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. He is the CEO and president of Mosley Wealth Management, and I'm your host, Kristen Oakley. Well, Tom, I know we need to talk about a very important subject now. Moving on, we're going to be talking about long-term care. And this is something, we were talking on the break that a lot of folks are really scared of. And I think this is the number one fear that people have as it relates to running out of money in retirement is the potential need for long-term care. But we want to remove the fear and replace it with education and knowledge. And so I'm excited that we're diving into this today. So I know you have some important stats that you want to share with our listeners on this very important subject.
I do, Kristen. I was 19 years in the ministry before I got into financial services 28 years ago. Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. I'm old. I knew Noah personally. Right,
but young at heart.
Yes, but young at heart and still going strong and loving what I'm going to do. Everybody says, "Are you going to retire?" No plans for retirement at this point. I could, but I don't want to. Mm-hmm. But in the ministry and in financial services over a period of decades, I've never run into anybody who said, "My goal in life is to be a burden to somebody." Mm-hmm. And that is the biggest question people have when it comes to long-term care. Forget long-term care. LTC is what it's abbreviated. That's not what they're concerned about. They're concerned about, is there anybody going to be there to take care of me? Or I don't want to be a burden to the ones I love. I want to take care of it myself. Mm-hmm. So we ran across a survey that really is about 7 or 8, 10 pages long. I'll tell you what, if you come in for a meeting and you're concerned about long-term care, I'll make sure and promise you I'll copy this and I'll give you a copy. You can see more statistics than you ever want to know. Mm-hmm. But I want to show you some percentages and some statistics on long-term care. How often is it used? Let me give you, this survey said that 70% is the percentage of people who are turning age 65 who will develop a severe long-term care need in their lifetime. Now, it doesn't mean they're going to have long-term care or they're going to get it, but 70% are going to need it. 48% of the people turning 65 will need some type of paid long-term care services. My concern is the 21% drop there, a 22% drop. And what happens to those people who need it, but they don't get it? 24% of the people turning 65 are going to require paid long-term care for more than 2 years. So it's not just a short term, we use it and it's gone.
Right.
Okay.
Yep.
So there's 10 more stats on usage. Let me go to the role of the biggest snafu we have in our society right now, the role of dementia, and particularly in long-term care. 48.8% of the nursing home residents have a diagnosis of not dementia, but depression. And I wanted to mention that, which leads a lot of times to when your mind gets all zoned out with depression, it seems like it becomes the haven for dementia to roll in. 49.1% of nursing home residents have some kind of diagnosis of Alzheimer's or another form of dementia. My mom died of Alzheimer's, and my mother-in-law passed away of vascular dementia. So I feel these statistics, if you understand what I'm saying.
From a first-hand perspective, yep.
Right. 5% of Americans aged 65 to 74 have been diagnosed with Alzheimer's or dementia. 13.1%, watch how this grows, of people 75 to 84 have Alzheimer's or some form of dementia, and 33%, 1 out of 3 people that's over 85 years of age have some form of Alzheimer's. I understand this. I understand the impact of it. Like I said, my mom, my mother-in-law both had some form of Alzheimer's or dementia. It is a horrible disease. You still have the person, but you don't have the person, because my mom left us probably 2 years before she finally left us. So it is a horrible disease. Let me talk to you about what it costs, because that's where it drives home. The estimated lifetime cost of care for someone with dementia is $321,780. That's monumental. The estimated lifetime care for someone with dementia who lives in a nursing home, this is the care after they go into a nursing home portion of it, because people spend a lot of money and they just want the dignity left, so they keep them at home and it costs a lot. But after they go into a nursing home, it's $195,000. And the median annual cost of adult daycare for 5 days a week, if you stay in your home, over $20,000. And living in an assisted living facility, it's $54,000 across the country. In 2021 was the average cost of living in a home. How do people pay for it? $47,620 is the median annual income of households of people 65 years of age or older. They're not going to pay for it out of their income. They are going to have either some kind of plan or some kind of care. So I'm telling you, and the sad thing is, for those of you who are married, the sad thing is, for those of you who have a loved one that you're caring for, you might not be married to, or the sad thing is, for those of you who have a partner that you're not married to, but you're caring for them in retirement, and they have dementia and they have Alzheimer's. The sad thing is the impact it leaves on the caregiver. I want to give you a personal story on that. My grandfather passed away in 1978. My grandmother passed away in 1985, 7 years later. My grandmother had dementia. My grandfather could move my grandmother around. He could pick her up. He could put her in the wheelchair, put her in a car, because he was a big man. She was a little lady. When he died, my aunt took on the care of her. My Aunt Ethel lived in Sarasota, Florida. And I'll never forget the phone call. I was at my dad's house in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and my cousin called, and Jeannie said on the phone, she said, "She's dead." That's all she said, and she was hysterical. And my dad broke down, and I was on the other phone. It was a speaker phone. We could both hear. My dad broke down and said, "My mom passed away." This was on a Tuesday. And Jeannie said, "No, no, no. My mom passed away. My grandmother's caregiver passed away on Tuesday. My grandmother passed away on Saturday." Okay. So the one who had the Alzheimer's passed away like 4 days later after the caregiver passed away. So here's what's the solution to this. I hope you feel the impact of it. I'm not trying to make it dramatic, but it is.
Yeah.
Here's the deal. You need a plan or you need a policy. If you're still in your 40s and you have that policy available at work, find out if it's portable. I'm giving you the answer right here, okay? I'm giving you the solution right here. Find out if that group policy through work is portable, which means when you retire, you can take it with you.
Right.
And get it in your 40s or 50s because the cost is going to be so much lower. Yes, you're going to be able to get it and have to pay for it for a much longer period of time. But the best policy you can get are those when you get in your 40s or early 50s, the cost is low and you've got it for the rest of your life because it's portable. If you don't have that available, what we can do is we can investigate, and it's an individual situation, is do you need an actual policy, which is going to be sky high? It's going to be difficult to get. It's almost, have you ever belched or burped? And if you have, you might not get long-term care. It's very difficult to get. But there are, because there's a limited number of policies. But the better thing to do, I find, is you still control your money rather than giving away $400 or $500 a month to an insurance company. Can you build your retirement blueprint so that you can carve out $100, $150, $200,000 and put it aside in the back of your mind and in the back of your portfolio, and eventually put it in a vehicle that if you ever need it, it will pay out twice as much money as it normally pays out. But if you ever need it, you can draw on it. If you don't need it, you can leave it for your kids. What a great way to do it. And you still control your money. How do you get that? You call in, get on our schedule, and we can review your entire situation with a lens of long-term care to build a plan or a policy for you.
The reality is this is never a fun subject to think about, but it's so critical. And this is the number one threat to people's security in retirement. So we encourage you to make this important phone call, see what other options are available to you. Simply call 888-930-5609, and the team of Mosley Wealth Management would love to help and serve you. When we come back, we're going to be diving into some important things regarding Social Security. Stay with us.
This is Right on the Money with Tom Mosley of Mosley Wealth Management. Get your own no-cost complimentary retirement plan review. 888-930-5609. That's 888-930-5609. At Mosley Wealth Management, we believe that everyone should have access to a comprehensive financial plan without having to pay a fee for it. We understand that financial planning can be complex and intimidating, which is why we've made it our mission to help people work towards achieving financial security and peace of mind in retirement. Call Tom Mosley and the team at Mosley Wealth Management, 888-930-5609.
Welcome back to Right on the Money with Tom Mosley. I'm your host, Kristen Oakley, and we just had a very important conversation about long-term care, which we know is not fun to think about, but it's so important to be empowered with the knowledge of what your options are. And, Tom and I were talking during the break, and I said, Tom, I want you to share in a little more depth about the solutions that you provide for people, because you were sharing, Tom, that here in California, there's only one company that even sells a long-term care policy, correct?
Yeah, they're down to one company that really sells an actual long-term care insurance policy. So when there's no competition, what happens? The price generally gets driven way, way high. It gets allowed because the state doesn't want to allow them to leave the state.
Right.
And so they allow the rates to continue to go high. That's why I said, and by the way, Kristen, we were both so depressed we almost didn't come back and finish the show.
No, we want to provide hope. That's the key, right?
That's right. And so we do want to provide you hope, but and as we were talking during the break, there's so many people, they're afraid of it, but they know nothing about it. They've not investigated, and that's why I wanted to go through the cost. Let's go through how do we take care of it? Number one, a policy. An individual standalone policy, one company, it's going to be pretty high. If you wait to get it when you're later, it's going to cost you more because it goes by age. That's why I recommend finding out if you've got and it's too late for the open enrollment for this year at most companies, because it's already passed and we're already into 2024. But next year, put something on your calendar that during open enrollment, find out if your company offers a long-term care policy as a group policy, and then find out if it's portable. That means that whenever you buy it, you can keep it, and then you can leave the company and continue to take it with you. Portable.
Mm-hmm.
You can take it with you as you go into retirement. Those are by far the most economical, inexpensive policies that you can get. And so that might be a way to work yourself into a plan. Now, if you don't have a plan or a policy and you need a plan, here's one thing you might think about. If you're $200,000, $250,000, $300,000 saved for retirement, the reality, and I always try to be as frankly straightforward as I can be.
Mm-hmm.
The reality is you're going to have to probably do a spin down and allow the state to take care of you, and they will take care of you. They will allow a surviving spouse to keep some limits and some money and some assets, but you're probably going to have to do a spin down, depend on the state.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got 500,000, 800,000, $1 million or more, one of the ideas that you need to think about is you probably have more money than you're actually going to spend down to zero in your lifetime. So you may need to carve off, and we do this with a lot of our people when we build their retirement blueprint. We carve off maybe $150,000 or $200,000, and we put it most of the time, if they're young and healthy, maybe in a life insurance policy that's a hybrid
Mm-hmm.
that will pay out for long-term care, or an annuity that will double the payout in case you go in, or actually the annuity we're using right now for this is it what you say, well, I don't want an annuity. Well, okay, if you don't need income, just listen to me. This is an annuity you put your money into, and if you ever do need it for income, you can turn on the income flow for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Number two, if you need long-term care and it starts that income flow, it'll double your payout for long-term care if you have 2 of the 7 activities of daily living that you can't perform.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say you're in that percentage of people who never need long-term care in your lifetime. Then that annuity will pass to your heirs, and it has a death benefit type, a number to it, a protected income value, and that's what passes along in the right circumstance to your children.
Mm-hmm.
So it operates in 3 different advantages to you. So there are vehicles that you can take care of your own long-term care by developing your own plan. I want to give you hope.
Yeah.
And then again, though, it's people who have 500,000 or more, maybe 800,000 would be a better deal or more, particularly if you've got over $1 million. Build your own plan, control your own money, and leave it to the people. Use it if you need it, but leave it to the people you want and not the insurance company if you don't. That's the way we like to approach it.
Exactly. Because to your point, Tom, it's so frustrating to pay for something that you don't ever know if you are going to need, or, then it's money down the drain, so to speak, with just that traditional policy. So I love that you're providing solutions for folks to say, here's a way that you can fund it if you need it. But if you don't end up needing that money for that long-term care, there's other things it can do for you.
You've got options.
Yeah.
You've got options as to whether you buy a policy or you put some kind of plan in place. And even the plan in place that we develop for people usually has options as to how they use it.
Yes, for sure. Well, I'm glad. Thank you for providing that hope to folks. And again, you can call 888-930-5609 to be able to see what options would be best for you. Again, it all depends. No 2 situations are alike. So the only way that they're going to be able, the team of Mosley Wealth Management, to advise you on what would be best for you is by you coming in and receiving that advice one-on-one. Well, we need to move on here, Tom. We promised we were going to talk about Social Security, and really the headline for Social Security so far in 2024 is that colas aren't cutting it. And no, we're not referring to Coca-Cola. We're talking about the cost of living adjustment. Now, a lot of folks, it's interesting. The cost of living adjustment over the last couple of decades, the past 2 decades, has only been on average about 2.6%. For 2024, it's now 3.2%. But let's talk about that and why it's not cutting it.
Well, it's not cutting it because most of last year we had a 4% or more inflation rate, and it finally got down in December to around 3.1, 3.2. And guess what? That's what they gave us for a raise. What a great deal. Let's pick the lowest
Right.
number of inflation
Mhm.
for the whole year and give them the raise. And it's based on a consumer price index that a lot of people have said, why don't we have a senior consumer price index? You can't do anything about it. You can cry about it. You can try to elect the
Mhm.
right kind of people, but they're going to do what they want to do and what they need to do. Thank God that last year in 2000, at the end of 2022, for last year, 2023, we got an 8.7% increase. But
Mhm.
this year, I want you to know you're going to go up. It's not going to go up as your costs have gone up. You got to make preparation for it. If you're
Mhm.
needing a certain amount of income, you got to start. This is a great time and a great point to reevaluate your retirement plan. Because if you were planning on X amount of dollars and it just went up even 3.2%, actually senior inflation went up an estimated like over 4, maybe closer to 5%. How are you
Mhm.
going to have that extra income? Where are you going to draw that's this year? That in alone in itself, Kristen, is a great reason to get a retirement blueprint from us, because we go through all of that.
Mhm.
I feel like at the end of the show, every year, every week, we didn't talk about all the things we
I
do, but
know.
there's no way we can talk about all the things we do when we build you an individual retirement plan.
So much goes into this. And, what you specialize in doing for people, the foundation of this plan is retirement income, and inflation has to be factored in as part of that income plan. So important.
Absolutely.
Well, I know that we typically, the last segment, we like to answer listener questions. And we had a question that came in last week that we weren't able to get to. So we wanted to make sure that we answered it today. As always, if you have questions, we invite you to submit them to info@mosleywealthmanagement.com. Again, that's info@MOSLEY wealthmanagement.com. But this week, we are going to address Al's question. Al is in Redondo Beach. He says, I'm 78 years old and I have over 1.5 million in my 401k. You often talk about Roth conversions on the show. Since I am not married, have no heirs, and am leaving all my assets to charitable organizations, does it make sense for me to do Roth conversions?
Listeners, if you listen to our program often, you're going to hear something that you never hear. I'm going to give you a one-word answer. You know how they put people under pressure when they're in front of Congress and they say, yes or no answer?
Right.
Okay. I'm going to answer your question, no, Al. If you're going to leave all of your money to charity, think about it. And it's in a 401k right now. First of all, I think you might want to move that over into an IRA, because I think your fees could be lower.
You have
I
more
think you could get
control,
better
right?
options. Right. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of things like that. But if we took your money, think about it, Al. If we took your money and we paid Roth conversions on that, and let's say you're in a 24% tax bracket, and let's just talk federal. If you took $100,000 this year and we did a Roth conversion, and you paid $24,000 federal tax and maybe $6,000 to the state, and instead of $100,000, we converted it into a Roth, and there's $70,000 in that account now. When you pass away and you leave all of that to your charitable organization, instead of the $100,000 that they would receive if you leave it into the IRA we recommend,
Mm-hmm.
you would then only be leaving them $70,000. Here's what I'm saying. Leaving it to a charitable organization, what difference does the tax make? Because they're a 501c3. I just had another client up in the Glendale office we met with, had over $10 million. And all of his money was in a tax position such that if we had solved his tax position in his life, he had no heirs, nobody to leave it to except a charitable organization, it wouldn't have made sense. Here's my
Mm-hmm.
point. I say this often. Your situation is entirely different than everybody else's situation. And where 98% of you probably need to consider Roth conversions, Al, you don't. This is what we do when we sit down with a blank piece of paper and we start, and you come in and tell us your story as to where you are and where you want to go. And we build you a retirement blueprint just for you, because the advice we give on here is generic advice, not specifically meant for anybody, but the advice we give in our conference room is specifically for you. It is a plan for you. We put it into place. We evaluate it every year. We change it if it needs to be changed. We keep it going if it's right. But you've got to call in to get this personalized retirement blueprint.
And that number to call is 888-930-5609. What a great way to be able to kick off this new year of 2024 by getting your very own customized, personalized retirement blueprint for no cost, no charge, no obligation. The team of Mosley Wealth Management is here to help and serve you. From all of us here at Right on the Money with Tom Mosley, we want to say again, Happy New Year. Thanks so much for joining us. Be safe, be happy, and be blessed.
Get your retirement right on the money with Tom Mosley. Call 888-930-5609 for your no-cost appointment. 888-930-5609. Investment advisory services offered by duly registered individuals through Mosley Wealth Management Incorporated. Mosley Wealth Management and Mosley Insurance and Financial Services are affiliated companies by common ownership license number OB61811. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refers to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength, claims-paying ability of the issuing carrier. This content is intended for informational and educational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the needs of an individual situation. All hypothetical examples are provided for illustrative purposes only. They do not represent real-life scenarios. Mosley Insurance and Financial Services, nor its agents or representatives, may give tax or legal advice. Individuals should consult with a qualified professional for guidance before making any investment decisions. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. Some of the information provided may be from one or more third parties, which we believe to be reliable sources, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Mosley Insurance and Financial Services.